Okay, so I have a question for you. Do you think Bitcoin has already won? If you look in the news and you see all like the price hike and all the corporations and the states and the ETFs getting approved and the price going above 100K, it almost looks, if you look naively, that we won, but I would say maybe we won in one aspect of what we were trying to achieve. Like, of all the properties of Bitcoin that we care, one of them is allowing people to save long-term, allowing people to protect themselves from debasement of their currencies, protect themselves from inflation. But there are other properties too that we cared when we started this initiative, we started this whole movement. There were other properties of the currency that Satoshi created and we all contributed to making it a reality that we also wanted to keep and preserve. I'll give some examples, like, first, actually, I'm going to talk about this meme that we all see everywhere, like, Bitcoin fixes this, Bitcoin is inevitable. Well, Bitcoin fixes a couple things, but not everything. Like, there are other things that we're going to do, we're going to need to do in our lives, in the world, to fix all the problems we have. But Bitcoin do fix a couple things. And one of the things it fixes is one of the properties of Bitcoin that I care the most is the privacy aspect of Bitcoin and the protection it gives us against surveillance and censorship resistance. So here are a few news about where fiat currencies failed on activists around the world, like in Hong Kong, in Nigeria, in Iran, where money was deducted from accounts, money was blocked from people. Maybe a pastor was had his bank account closed just because he was helping activists, or even people in Lebanon where their currency was being devalued. They had limits of how much, even in Argentina, limits on how much money they could withdraw from their accounts, or limits on how much dollars they could have in their accounts. We had people getting just because they were not using the clothes that the government wanted them to use, they were also forbidden from having access to the financial world, or maybe in some countries, just because they're female, they didn't have access to, they're women, they didn't have access to the financial world. And then I'm going to talk about some of the situations where Bitcoin really fixed it. We have situations like in Russia, where the opposition had in Bitcoin, and actually I had the opportunity to meet some of these people that I'm talking here now, in conferences like this, in Prague. I think even here, Luda, I think, is going to speak, or already spoke on a panel, or gave a talk. I also met Anna from HRF. I also met Jorge from Venezuela. I had the opportunity throughout the years going to these conferences to meet some of the people that had in Bitcoin the only potential possible way of having access to donations or having access to actually using their money. And one other example is Belarus. Another example is Afghan girls that had in Bitcoin the only way they had used Bitcoin to fund a program to teach them coding. There's also Ukrainian refugees who left their countries only using having seed words in a paper or USB drives, and also Bitcoin protecting Lebanon people from the devalue of their currencies. But there are also situations. So you could think Bitcoin fixes this, right? I gave examples of where fiat failed, and I gave examples of where Bitcoin fixed it. But then I can also give examples of where Bitcoin failed on fixing what it's supposed to fix. Either because someone used the custodial account, or either because the privacy of Bitcoin was not enough, or because someone who was just writing code to improve the privacy of Bitcoin was arrested and prosecuted. or like even the limitations of Bitcoin itself, like, okay, there are both technical limitations and educational and cultural limitations. Everyone knows that Bitcoin like has a limit on how much it can scale, how much on-chain activity it can carry. We also know that even though today we're not using its full capacity, we have many people that are not using it, we have many people that are exposed to Bitcoin price or exposed to Bitcoin volatility through IOUs, but they're not actually using Bitcoin. They're not holding their keys. They're not like actually being self-sovereign about their money. So there are both technical limitations, educational limitations, and cultural limitations on like all the problems that Bitcoin is, all the things that are preventing Bitcoin from actually fixing the privacy versus surveillance problem. And so like, what if Bitcoin wins, but we lose? Okay, Bitcoin hits $1 million, and governments and corporations hold them. But then we have no privacy, no censorship resistance, no grassroots culture. Bitcoin won, but not the Bitcoin I want to win. So the whole purpose of my talk is to tell you that the Bitcoin is inevitable meme is only a reality as long as we have a community that is working for it to be inevitable. I could agree with someone telling me that Bitcoin is inevitable, but just because I know so many people that are giving all their lives to either code or protect or educate about Bitcoin. So I do think that Bitcoin, for Bitcoin to be inevitable, it will require the help of all of us. And there are a few ways you can help. I talked about privacy and scalability. So if you're a programmer, a developer, you can start contributing to open source software that is improving or pushing the boundaries of these limitations. Or if you're a designer, you can also improve the usability and the design and all the UX issues that we have to make Bitcoin more accessible and Bitcoin more easy to use. And even improving on the things that we care, like improving on the privacy of how we move our coins or how we deal with our TXOs without requiring everyone to understand what they're doing. So, or maybe you're not technical enough, you're not a developer, but you're technical enough that you can understand what those developers are building and go after all the wallets and all the exchanges and all the products and softwares that are not integrated with the newest privacy technology or the newest censorship resistance technology, and helping them integrate, helping them advocating for them to integrate. So we had, for example, Bull Bitcoin and Cake Wallet. Cake Wallet is here, Bull Bitcoin is here. They both integrated like silent payments, pay join. We can help by going to all the other wallets, either as a actual full-time or part-time product manager or business developer, or maybe even as a user, hey, go talk with the wallet people the wallet that you use, go talk with the people that are coding it or developing it. Hey, where's private technology in your wallet? Or maybe you can you're more like a communicator, an educator, and then you can create content to help more users, more people know how to use self-custody their coins properly, or how to use privacy technology, or communicate the world about the developers that are working on privacy technology so you can help them get funding. There are many, many ways you can help. Maybe you're a lawyer, and then if you're a lawyer, you can help by defending the people that are risking their lives by writing code, writing privacy technology, or writing code that is a specific government in the world doesn't like, or maybe even donating to people that are doing it, or doing advocacy. I talked about Luda before. Luda is from the Open Dialogue Foundation. She is there in the EU talking with politicians, doing for some of us could look like boring work, but it's important work, because if she is not there, making these EU politicians understand how important self-custody is, how important privacy is, they're going to come up with crazy laws that will not like prevent entirely, but really make it more difficult for us to use these technologies that we're like creating and making more difficult for Bitcoin to fulfill its goal as to be up to like keep all the properties that we care, the cypherpunk origin properties. Or journalism. Maybe you have like you have a big following online. You write well. You have access to Forbes or to Times or to big newspapers, and you can or maybe even a blog, and then you can cover all the bad things all the bad pressure that is coming against the people that are trying to keep these properties. Because the thing is, Bitcoin will not be inevitable by its like natural properties. It's not like, oh, you leave it there and it's gonna be protected from all the pressures and the vectors, the centralization vectors. It's gonna require all of us going and working for it. A few other problems that we have, like usability and connectivity. Maybe we do have we do know that Bitcoin doesn't require permission. It's global access. People can use it everywhere. But then, how do we make Bitcoin? How do we make Bitcoin really like truly accessible? And then there are projects of, like I'm giving just a few examples of projects that are allowing you to use like bolt cards or Mashankuho that are allowing you to use Bitcoin while offline. It's not like perfect yet, but it's going in a good direction. And then we have problem that Bitcoin has no borders. So we always, I even talked about the situations where Bitcoin kind of fixed it. Why? Because people got the ability to receive donations from everywhere on the world to like fund their activity as activists. But then how do they use the money they received? I talked with Janice, who is from Bolivia. I also talked with someone from where? I forgot. Nicaragua. Yeah. And okay, they get Bitcoin donations, but then Bolivia had forbidden Bitcoin for the longest time. Recently, they changed the law, but like for the longest time, it was forbidden. Of course, it can't entirely forbidden, but if it is forbidden, it gets more difficult for you to get actually to use it, because okay, you get the donations. Getting the donations from international supporters is easy, but then once you have the Bitcoin, how do you actually fund the things you need for your fight? Like, let's say you're fighting against like the government that is putting fire on forests, but then you need like firefighter clothes, but then you go to the firefighter clothes store. If they don't get Bitcoin, what do you do? And then a few potential solutions, but not complete solutions, is like you build circular economies and you have more people adopting Bitcoin as means of payment. Or you use things like peer-to-peer private platforms like Monstro. Or Bitrefill, I heard a bunch of times that Bitrefill has been sometimes the only option for some of them, because they got Bitcoin and they can at least get some like vouchers and get like eSIM and things they can actually use on the ground to like actually fulfill their fights. So we have a lot of UX education and problems that we need to actually work on. A lot of things that are still lacking. Or even like more broadly, not an actual like concrete thing that people a concrete problem that people go through in their day-to-day lives, but mining nowadays is centralized in a lot of ways. It's centralized especially in the hardware manufacturing side, but also sometimes like in the too much concentration in one country. So we have like Stratum V2 that helps with like the block template distribution among hashers. We have Gridless that is like bringing more mining to Africa and also helping energize Africa through bringing mining there. We have Bitaxi that, although it's right now just like a pleb, like lottery kind of thing, it opens the door for more people to like get in touch with like an ASIC. And like we can't even like we had the talk about Bitaxi just earlier. Like we can't even imagine all the things that are gonna be improved just by having like these little machines available everywhere. If like imagine like an African developer or like a Bolivian developer that like, okay, now I can actually touch an ASIC, I can see how it works, and then he starts trying things that no one tried before, and then at some point someone from Bolivia discovers that like if you, I don't know, like put the ASIC connected in a different way or put inside water or whatever, like crazy things, and then they realize that, oh, now instead of 1.2 terahashes, I can, with the same machine, do 1.3, and then someone else discovers the same thing, and you combine those discoveries because it's all open source, and then you have more, like, you can be more productive with the resources we have. Therefore, decentralizing mining even further. And there's more, like Bitcoin faces other problems and limitations that won't go away without the action of all of us Bitcoiners. So Bitcoin fixes this, yeah, but it needs all of us to actually fulfill all the properties we care. And like I talked about like some of the ways you can help. Like if you're a developer, you can go after Vinchun, the nonprofit I started in Brazil, specifically training developers and funding developers in Brazil, but there's also Libreria de Satoshi training and funding developers. In Spanish Latin America, there's BitTrust, covering Africa and some other parts of the global south. We have Bichala in India, Chaincode, which is a more global program, would be more a better fit for like, the people here that are from Europe or America. We have the Bitcoin Students Network. If you're a student, you can start a club in your university, and then when you start a club in your university, you will attract more potential talent that will come and cover all those different needs that we have, the developer, the journalist, the advocate, the educator, and then the Human Rights Foundation is giving grants to a bunch of these projects. Mi Primer Bitcoin is doing like open source education everywhere, Plan B. And then we have the Bitcoin UX Bootcamp, Bitcoin Design Foundation, the Bitcoin Design Community, the Bitcoin Product Community. We have like a whole bunch of ways we can actually help and go and find ways of how we can like actually protect Bitcoin and fulfill its vision, fulfill all the cypherpunk properties that we care. So I like this little meme here that Bitcoin is inevitable, but not like, it shows it really well. It is inevitable because of all the collective and the community of people that are protecting it. Bitcoin can be inevitable, but not because of like intrinsic properties, just because it's attracting a whole bunch of crazy people like us. And it's attracting a whole bunch of crazy people that are passionate about the properties that it carries. But the vectors and the pressures trying to like maybe move away from the properties that the states don't like, or that someone don't like and the people that are trying to make Bitcoin be less than it can be, we need to be here to ensure Bitcoin's success. We need to find our place and help everyone make and help Bitcoin and help it become unstoppable. Thank you.
Secure your BTC Prague 2026 ticket at the lowest possible price now.